This video is called Polynomials Distributive Property, and the goal is I can multiply a monomial by a polynomial. First, let's start with some review exercises. The directions say find the simplified form of each expression. So for the first one, I notice that I'm subtracting two polynomials. So I'm going to write my invisible 1 right here, and I'm going to distribute the negative 1 first. So I have negative 5y squared minus 4y plus 1. Negative 1 times y squared is a negative y squared. And a negative 1 times a negative 2 is a positive 2. I'm going to write my answer in standard form. So first I'm going to start with combining my y squareds. So I have a negative 5 and a negative 1 y squared, so that becomes a negative 6y squared. Next, my next highest degree is this negative 4y, and there's nothing to combine with this, so I'm going to write minus 4y. And my next highest degree are my two numbers, 1 plus 2, which becomes 3, so plus 3. So there's my simplified answer in standard form. Number 2. So I have 5x squared times a negative 7x to the negative 6th power. So here I'm going to multiply the two big numbers. So 5 times a negative 7 is a negative 35. Then for the exponents here, I'm going to add the exponents. So I have x to the negative 4th. To simplify this completely, I want to rewrite it with positive exponents. So the negative 35 has an exponent of a 1 right there. So that stays right where it's at. So I have a negative 35. And to make that negative 4 positive, to make that exponent positive, I need to put it in the denominator. So I have x to the 4th. So I have negative 35 over x to the 4th. Number 3. For this one, I want to think of distributing this exponent to all of the exponents inside the parentheses. So if you want to add a little 1 right there, you can for the negative 3 so that it also has an exponent. So think of distributing that, and when we distribute, we multiply. So I have negative 3, and that is going to be 1 times 3 is 3, so that's the 3rd power. And then I have x to the 4 times 3, which is 12. So now I'm going to simplify that. Negative 3 to the 3rd power is negative 3 times a negative 3 times a negative 3, which is a negative 27, and then x to the 12th. For number 4, we have to do a couple of different things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think of distributing that exponent to what's inside of the parentheses. So I have 2, and then to the 1 times negative 2 is a negative 2, and then I have x, and then negative 4 times a negative 2 is a positive 8. And then I'm going to rewrite everything else. So I'm going to bring down that x to the 6th, and I'm going to bring down this x right here. Now I'm going to combine all the x's by adding all their exponents. So I just add a little 1 right there so we wouldn't forget the x has an invisible exponent. So we have 6 plus 8 plus 1, which is 15. So I have x to the 15th. And then I'm going to bring down that 2 to the negative 2. So first I want to rewrite this with a positive exponent with that 2 to the negative 2. So with a negative exponent, I'm going to write that. I'm going to put that into the denominator so that it can become positive. So I have x to the 15th in the numerator, and then 2 squared now is going to be on the bottom. That's how I'm going to make that exponent positive. And then I have x to the 15th over 4. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. Now let's try some examples for distributing polynomials. And the directions say find the simplified form of each expression. So for number 1, first I'm going to think of distributing. So when I distribute, I'm going to multiply the big numbers. So 6 times 2 is 12. And then remember when you would multiply, for example, if I did x times x to the 3rd, remember with these when you have 2 powers with the same base, you're going to add the exponents. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So this is going to be 12x to the 4th. And then plus 6x times 7x is 6 times 7 is 42, and then add the exponents. 1 plus 1 is going to be 2, so x times x is x squared. Let's try number 2 now. We're going to do the same exact thing, so I'm going to distribute. So negative 1 w to the 3rd times w squared. So I have negative 1 times a positive 1, which is a negative 1. And then for the w's, again, I'm going to add the exponents. So 3 plus 2 is 5. Negative 1 times a positive 4 is a negative 4. And since there's no w's to combine the exponents, I'm still going to put w cubed. So my answer is, if you want to write that one, you can, or to simplify it completely, I'm going to write negative w to the 5th minus 4w cubed. Okay, number 3. So again, I'm going to distribute here. So I have 5n times 3n cubed is going to be 15n to the 4th, because I'm adding the exponents. N to the 1 times n cubed is n to the 4th. And then 5n times a negative 1n squared is going to be negative 5, add the exponents, n cubed. And then 5n times 8 is going to be 40n. So a common mistake for the last one is that people forget to include this n right here, so don't forget that. And our last one, number 4. So this one we have a lot more variables, but we can definitely still do it. So first I have negative x cubed y times 9x to the 4th y squared. So I have negative 1 times 9, let's do it piece by piece, is negative 9. X cubed times x to the 4th, I'm going to add the exponents, so x to the 7th. Y times y squared is y cubed. Okay. Now let's do the second part. Negative 1 times a negative 2 is a positive 2, so this is going to be plus 2. And then x cubed times x cubed is, add the exponents, x to the 6th. And then y times y is y squared. And the last part is negative 1 times 7 is a negative 7, but then we still have that x cubed y, so I'm going to include that in my answer.